The time is now to architect a life of excellence. What will we do? Who will we become? We decide today. This is Learn, Do, Become Radio with April and Eric Perry. Let's move onward and upward together.
Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. It's April here with Eric, and we are interviewing Rachel Ramsey Cruze, who is an amazing author and mother and person, and I feel like I've known her forever. We're talking about her new book, Love Your Life, Not Theirs. So welcome, Rachel.
Thanks, April. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Today we're going to talk about, first of all, the 7 money habits that you feature in your book for living that life we want. Now, I love each of these 7 habits. I'm going to invite you to just share what the 7 habits are so that those who are listening kind of get a feel for what the book talks about. But then we're going to dive into how we actually make this happen as a couple, leading a family, how we make it work together. Because, you know, Eric and we run our business together, raise a family together, and I feel like for me, talking about money has been hard. Learning how to logistically make the budget happen, it's been something I'm still learning. I'm good at not getting into debt, and I'm good at not spending a lot. But I feel like as far as my financial confidence in really working with a plan, I feel like I have a lot to learn. And Eric was an accounting major in school, and he's went to business school. He's all about financials and accounting, and so I feel like it's kind of 2 different worlds brought together. And so, Rachel, you're kind of like this teacher for us today.
The glue that's going to bring it all together.
Of the couple, yeah.
So you want to start out just describing those 7 habits that you talk about in the book?
Yes, yeah. I'm really, really excited about this content. And I love the idea of habits just because it's just these day-to-day decisions that we make. And over time, it becomes muscle memory. And we really don't have to think about it because it becomes a part of who we are. And so as I looked at my own life and others around me thinking, okay, what are 7 good money habits to put in place? And so these were the 7 that I really dove into the book. And the first one is quit the comparisons. And it's just this idea of stop looking at everyone else and be able to live the life that you want. And comparisons can be such a negative thing that creeps up in our lives, and it steals our joy. I think it steals our paycheck as well. And so getting this foundation of contentment and gratitude is so key, and being able to find that habit of not comparing your life to everyone else is so important. So that's the first one, quit the comparisons. Number 2 is steer clear of debt. And this is a huge part of my message, being able to live debt-free and in the freedom of not owing anyone anything. Habit number 3 is make a plan for your money, which is simply and boldly a budget. You have to live on a budget in order to win. And a budget is probably the one I struggle with the most, April. So we're definitely on the same page when it comes to that. Yeah. Habit number 4 is talk about money even when it's hard. And that means with your spouse, with your kids, and if you're single, with a friend. And money can be a very difficult subject to talk about, but it needs to be communicated. Habit number 5 is save like you mean it. We all know we should save money, but we have to make it a priority in our budget. We have to make it a priority in our lives. Habit number 6 is think before you spend. And I love this because I am a natural spender. And so being able to understand that spending is not a bad thing. You can spend money, but do it wisely. And so I talk through some logistics on that and some practical advice. And the last one is give a little until you can give a lot. And giving shapes so much of who we are as a person, our character, our outlook on life. And it's just such a key component of our money that a lot of people leave out, but it's a crucial one. And so making a habit in our life, no matter where we are financially, to be giving something until we are debt-free and taking care of our family well, then we'll have hopefully some more income to be freed up to be able to give a lot.
Okay, I'm loving all of these. These are exciting. And I actually feel super excited for the next, 20 minutes that we get to have this podcast. My vision for this podcast is that other couples who are listening, or if it's just one person who's listening who is going to be helping to lead a whole family, I really want to talk about how do we logistically make this work together. Because I found, first of all, I think we need to say if there are some crazy things happening, like one spouse is out spending thousands of dollars without notifying the other spouse, or someone's racking up credit card debt and didn't let the other person know. Clearly those are the big issues. Like you need to be on the same page with spending.
Absolutely.
And, Eric and I aren't in that spot. We're both really cautious spenders. We make sure we don't ever put anything on a credit card. We make sure that we always have cash to buy what we need to buy. And so things are really good that way. But I feel like where I've been really weak is just being able to feel comfortable talking about it, feel comfortable looking at the numbers and not feel out of control. And I think that's been my main problem is I feel like, well, sure, I can set up a budget and say, here's what we're going to spend. But then all these things happen and I don't like dipping into savings, or I should have been able to prevent that, or what if, and I kind of get stressed out about all the crazy things that happen with money, or an opportunity comes up and we think, oh, should we spend our savings on this, or should we make this happen? And I feel stressed, like, I feel like I just don't have a really good solid foundation. My parents never really talked to me about this, and I didn't learn a lot about it growing up. So maybe you and Eric take it away, and I'll be a good listener here.
Well, just one more thing to add there, Rachel. Maybe you can kind of speak to what you've seen in your experience and working with people. But I loved your fourth habit, talk about money even when it's hard. I think what just April was illustrating, and I think you might be able to speak to it as well, is I think most people, most parents or couples don't want to talk to each other about money when things are difficult or strained. They also are probably less likely to teach their children about good financial management. They're like, I'm not being a good steward. I'm not a good example of this. So I'm going to wait until my ship comes in, until I'm just crushing it. Then I'll talk to my kids about money. Yep. And that may never happen, or they may be long gone in college or married before that day maybe ever comes, if it does. So maybe what have you seen that's been helpful to help couples and families talk more freely about money no matter what situation they're in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when it comes to the family side of it, we can hit that first really quick. Parents, I urge them so much just to say that it is your responsibility to teach your kids about money. And I think you're exactly right, Eric. I hear so many parents that they pull back and there's so much shame and there's so much guilt because they're like, well, who am I to teach my kids about money? I have credit card debt. I live paycheck to paycheck. We don't have savings. Like, who are we to teach our kids? And I'm like, who are you? You're their parents. Like, you are the parent. And, you can't expect the school teacher or the new car dealer or the reality show character, to teach your kids about money. You have to step in and do it. So don't let your past mistakes hinder your kids' future. No matter what you've done.
Put a quick aside on that. I don't know if we introduced those who are maybe listening to kind of all of who you are and kind of where you've come from. But for those of you who don't know, Rachel is Dave Ramsey's daughter and was raised in the Ramsey household. And I think you shared with us in the Smart Conference a few months ago a lot of that experience that when you were born, your family was going through a lot of really difficult challenges and some setbacks there. But your dad, your mom, and the whole family over the years that ensued really put together a plan, worked hard, and figured out a way to move forward. And I love it because it's testimonial that anyone can do this if they have that vision, that drive, and they're connected to the powers that will help them get there. But I'm sure, as a child and as a teenager growing up in that household, you were aware of a lot of the circumstances, kind of challenging and good, but that it actually helped shape your views and your perspective on money and how things are managed in family life. So just want to make sure those who are listening have that perspective to realize that even if we're in a difficult spot, we can still teach and train and guide powerfully our families.
100%. Yeah, because my parents, they filed bankruptcy the year I was born. And so that was really out of that pain teaching us how money works. When I talk to parents, like, well, who am I to teach my kids about money? I have credit card debt. I'm like, my parents filed for bankruptcy.
Right. You can do this.
Yeah, totally. Like, if they can do it, anyone can do it. And so I think you just have to realize that, so many parents say it, and it's true that they want a better life for their kids. And so the best gift you can give your kids is the knowledge and the wherewithal of how to handle money well. And you're the one to teach them that. And with that said, though, the caveat that more is caught than taught. So as a parent, you have to realize that you have to get your stuff together for your own sake, yes, but also because your kids are going to watch you. If you say one thing and do another, that's what's called a hypocrite. And so there's going to be some bumps in the road, absolutely. But over the course of time, start forming your money habits as a parent, in a sense that's very healthy and very good, because that's what you're going to model for your kids. But also step in and have those conversations, again, because I really do believe it's your responsibility. And so as a parent, do that, because that is loving your child so well. So that's kind of the parenting side of it, that relationship side. But when it comes to spouses, that's kind of a whole new ball game, isn't it? I mean, gosh, marriage and money can be so difficult at times and so hard. And so for me, a couple of things that I've learned and that Winston and I have done together that have helped us is number one, just embrace that opposites attract. And I think that's so important because in marriage, it's true. Usually one person's burning up, one's freezing to death. One's early, one's always late. It's just this idea that opposites attract, and it is so true. And so when it comes to our money, naturally, there's usually a spender, that's me, and then there's usually a saver, which is my husband. And so just recognizing that, saying that out loud, and neither one is right or wrong, but it's really good to have the balance, because if you are the spender like me and you just spend everything you make, you're going to be broke, and then you're probably going to end up more in debt, and so on and so forth. So you have to have the maturity to say, okay, I enjoy spending money, but I do have to save because I have to actually live life. And I believe us spenders are there for the savers, so they actually have a life and they can and have fun, and that's what we're for the spenders. So,
and one thing,
that opposites attract idea is so true.
Yeah. Now, and one thing I just want to add on that too is I think that one of the things that I really appreciate about Eric is that sometimes he's more the spender, not like just a whole bunch of things to consume, but investments for the family, courses we're going to take, or a special family vacation, or investing in wise purchases. Like, I would never have gotten a faster computer. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I can just keep going on the slow one. And Eric said, April, we have the money. We're going to buy you a nicer computer. It's going to work faster. And oh my goodness, it saves me hours every week because I'm not waiting for that computer.
Well, I tend to look at those types of things in kind of the 3E categories. So if it's going to make you more effective, which is the computer type thing, or if you're investing in education or in experiences that are going to really last you and your family a whole lifetime, again, reasonably and responsibly, you don't want to go into debt. You have the money in place, but it's just making sure that we understand how we allocate these financial resources we're stewards over for the best benefit of our families, for ourselves, but then also, once we have those experiences, to radiate out into a broader world. So, yeah, I think it's just one thing I would just say to what you said, Rachel, is that, I think if we can take the emotional charge out of discussing finances, a lot of marital challenges come over finances or kind of relationship, intimacy type stuff. And I think if it's helpful to kind of create whatever foundation or framework you and your spouse feel comfortable with, to kind of take the emotional charge out of it and just make them as clear and as simple a discussion as possible when you're both well rested. You've both eaten. You're just making
it's
sure
not
that
your wife's
building a
hormonal
simple
time
plan.
of the month. What are you saying, Eric?
I don't even know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about there. But I think if we can help do that, it really does. I mean, just put it back on a simple level playing field where it's not about me versus you. And then especially with our children.
Blame,
no blame, but just talking through and working to correct challenges that come up. But then also with our children, I love what you said, even when things don't go well, right? If a reversal or something happens that doesn't come out like we planned, that's really the most important time to pull your children aside and say, hey, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's try to understand what happened and what we're going to do to go forward. Because I think if those types of conversations, that type of clear communication is happening, it circumvents a lot of the challenges in a marriage and in family relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, too, when it comes to money, being on a plan and agreeing on it, doing a budget and agreeing is so important. I think it eliminates, like you're saying, it almost puts the facts on the table and takes the emotion out, because it's like, let's look at the numbers and let's put it in the place that they need to be. And so being able to work together on a budget is so, so important, because, again, it reiterates your priorities as a family, where you want to spend money, how much you want to save, and really agreeing on your spouse with that. And so when that happens, being able to look at the actual numbers, I always tell people, put it on paper or on your computer, or we have a tool called Every Dollar that I love. It's a free budgeting tool, but have something visual. So as you're looking at the numbers, you're seeing them, and it's not this idea, okay, well, you can spend $300, on restaurants or what, it's just thrown out. It's never going to stick. And that's where a lot of the fights and the confusion comes into play. And so being able to have a place where you can come together, see the numbers together and talk through them and plan together is so key. And it's going to take time, especially if you've never done a budget with your spouse before. And so give yourself a couple of months, get it working. But as you start to look at the numbers, you really will feel this not only sense of accountability to the budget, but also the sense of control. And it becomes less intimidating, I really believe, as you see things, black and white on paper. And it's like, here it is. This is what we're doing. And being able to be flexible during the month if you need to be. But again, as a spouse, working together as a team and seeing that visual is so important.
Right. And I was going to just advocate a little bit further on what some of the things you brought up there. We have long been great fans of your father and of your books. And if people listening, and for those of our listeners haven't really come across Dave Ramsey and a lot of the things he's shared, what I love about him is he's so down to earth. And I think he says, I give you the advice your grandmother would give you, you know? If you'd listen to her and pull her aside, this is the kind of old-fashioned, just common sense advice you'd give. So if you haven't read some of Dave's book, Total Money Makeover, this Every Dollar program, I mean, a great resource, a free budgeting resource and tool, and Rachel's books there. I mean, we really do. I mean, we strongly recommend them because they're amazing. April and I have a couple programs we talk about time and project and kind of life management. And I think just as in some of the classes we offer, and I think this is where, Dave Ramsey and Rachel Ramsey Cruze are a great resource. There isn't enough education in the secondary system, like middle school and high school, teaching young students about to become young adults how to become better at managing their time and their projects and their money. And these are critical schools. Not that math and science and English aren't crucially important, and I think you'd probably agree that there's a need for more of this kind of a curriculum to be out there, if not in the public school system, at least available to them as they're kind of starting into this idea of planning to go off on their own to college, to work, to really know how to manage their life, the money, the time, and the things they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's things that we use every single day. And it's like, it seems to be those things that aren't taught. You're exactly right. And so being able to be, if you're a parent or in a position where you can influence a teenager, I mean, yeah, I think it is. It's so important. It's basic. And the habits you form as a young adult, you could say, or as a teenager, if that becomes who you are that young, I mean, that's only going to be magnified as you get older. And it's so much easier to put those habits in place. I really think the younger you are, because when you're older, you already have that habit established. And it's hard
like
to
I said, it's muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
and maybe we could talk a little bit more specifically about some of the routines that you put in place. And this is what I would love to know, specifically like for someone in a situation like me and Eric, where we're raising a family, running a household. What are some basic like daily routines, weekly, monthly? I mean, I'm guessing you sit down each month to do the budget for the upcoming month, or every day you're logging purchases. Can you just kind of walk through some of the routines that help you to successfully stay on a budget with your spouse?
Yes. So doing a budget every month is key. And you're exactly right. We do a budget before the next month begins. So Winston and I will sit together. And honestly, we've been doing it for 6 years. So for the most part, our budget is pretty consistent. Our bills are rather consistent. And we don't really have, our budget doesn't change too much month to month. And so for us, our budget meetings are rather quick. They were much longer in the early days, but now they're a little bit faster. But we really do. We look over, okay, do we have a friend's birthday coming up? Is there a baby shower I'm helping throw? Are we going out of town? Like, we just look at the next coming month, plan ahead as much as possible, put it down and agree, okay, this is what we're doing. So that's really, that's kind of the foundational step we take every single month, pretty consistent.
And just real quick, Rachel, on that, before I jump to that next step, I think that's a really important point you underscored there, that those first few months, that's really actually where some of the heavy lifting happens, where you actually figure out the conversation, the process.
It won't be that hard forever.
It won't be that hard forever, but it's like getting that flywheel moving, right? Initial momentum. So I think that's where a lot of couples give up after the second or third month. Like, these are painful conversations. I mean, April and I have been through that a few times in our married life, where I built this amazing spreadsheet that I thought was powerful and amazing.
And I'd start crying.
and about an hour into it, we're, getting close to being done. But I think just helping couples and individuals realize these first 2, 3, 4 months, as you're getting kind of that rhythm, that routine going, it's going to take a little bit more time and energy and investment, but you stay to it, because what's going to start to happen, just like you said, now it doesn't take you long at all, and you're able to just move quickly through and just make a few adjustments, but you're still using a budget framework every month that's helping you get ahead.
Yep, you're exactly right. I always tell couples about 90 days. Give yourself 90 days and your budget really will start working. So yeah, that's exactly right. And the next thing I do is I go and cash out from the bank categories that we tend to overspend on. And so for us, that's groceries, out to eat, my clothing budget. And then we have a miscellaneous category that kind of is a catch-all for things that come up unexpectedly.
Now describe what you mean by cash out.
So yeah, cash out meaning you just pull out all the cash for that whole month?
Yes, out of that category. So whatever we have allotted for groceries that month, I go and just pull cash for that, and I just put it in an envelope where I have a little wallet thing that I use. And so I have those categories, and that really helps us stay on track for the most part, because cash is it's a hard one to let go. It's easy to swipe the debit card, but when you're actually letting go of hard cash, it's like, okay, you think twice about a purchase. And so it really is a good accountability, because once it's gone, it's gone.
And they've done studies that prove that when you're spending hard cash versus the credit card, this percentage in spending is much, much lower. I don't know if you have the stat there, but it's dramatically lower because, it's a tangible, visceral thing that you're giving up, recognizing your hard work's flowing out of your hands.
And so that's every month you do that, once a month?
Yes, I do. Okay. So I'll usually go soon after our budget meeting. It depends on really my work schedule or where we are in life, but I try to run by the bank and do that. Yeah, so we have that cash. And for me as the spender, the best part is when we have cash left over, like in our out to eat, and I'm like, I always want to roll it over to the next month, and Winston's like, let's just put it back in the bank, and I'm like, no.
Two viewpoints. Yep.
We want it. Yeah. So that's one thing. The cash system, the envelope system, really has helped us. And not to do a shameless plug, but truly, we have Every Dollar, and it's an app on your phone, and so we both have the same login information. And so this actually, ours, it's connected to our bank account. So anytime we swipe our debit cards, that transaction comes up on Every Dollar. So we can look and you can categorize where it is in your budget. And so we have the same app and the same login information. So we honestly keep track with it throughout the entire month, and we can look at it and talk about it. And it really is a great place for us to go together and see, okay, this is how we're doing. This is where we probably need to bump this category down or this one up next month, and we can kind of talk through it. So those are really the three main things that we do as a couple. But again, those early days, I think that is so important to reiterate. All of this may be a complete disaster your first month. So give yourself some grace. Give your spouse some grace. You both are trying to work towards the same goal, and that's what's important. So give yourself that time and just be unified on the subject. And over time, just remember too, some months it's going to be not great, and still to this day, I think we overspent on our out to eat budget last month because we had 2 birthday parties we forgot about and dinners, and so we have to tell ourselves, okay, we did that. We had to take from other categories. And so just there is an ebb and a flow to this idea of life. And so I think that's important to remember as well.
Right. But I think you're establishing that mindset, that ability to kind of have a little bit more self-discipline and control. So if you are overspending in one category, you're a little bit more controlled in others where you have that ability to move it around. So generally you're staying inside your budget. And over time, you're going to become better at this, right? But I love that idea of Every Dollar giving that day-to-day, real-time visibility to have conversations, to make adjustments where you need to.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And I love this vision that you're painting for everyone here listening. I think that the idea that you and your spouse, and this is something that Eric and I definitely are doing as well, being able to just be on the same page and know that we have these shared goals that we're working on and we're supporting each other and we're discussing things. It takes so much stress out of the daily life because there's enough going on if there aren't financial issues, right? I mean, just dealing with the schedule and, I was having talk with my 8-year-old about the birds and the bees this morning. I mean, there's just a lot going on in our lives and we don't want to be stressed and worried, but I love how you just put this into a very simple routine because I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, Eric, you and I can totally do a monthly budget review. I can go get cash for the categories because typically, like I'm buying the groceries, clothing, things like that. That would be great for me to have cash in envelopes. And I think that would give me more confidence because I feel like what typically happens, one of my problems is I just feel like, well, I just won't spend anything. I just won't spend. But then I have to spend because I'm running a family. So then I just feel like, I'm trying to be responsible and helpful, but I'm not taking enough time to just sit and have a really good system in place. I mean, I'm not in a bad spot. Like things are going really well, but I feel like, one of the habits that you didn't talk about, or one of the things that we're not really necessarily talking about in this book, is the whole idea of entrepreneurship and earning money well and encouraging our children to be able to grow and develop financially, because I think that that's a beautiful thing. But I think until you have really good, strong money management skills in place, no matter how much money you earn, you're just going to spend it, or you're just going to mismanage it unless you have these really good habits from the beginning.
Yeah, you definitely want your money to work for you and control it versus it controlling you. So being in that position and be able to, John Maxwell says, telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Right. And I love that because it's so true.
Directing as opposed to reacting.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so, give yourself time for it to work, and it will.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, I'd like to, I know our time's kind of coming to a conclusion here. I just wanted to underscore 3 more quick points of the book because I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I love what you presented on at the SMART conference. I'm just dying to get in and read the 7 Habits more in depth and kind of get your frameworks and perspectives. But just a couple quick things. I love that idea that we quit the comparison. Just that idea that so many of us, and I think, I heard you talking with April on another podcast for Power of Moms about that something a trap we fall into is comparing ourselves side by side. And I think it's, just as true almost for men as it is for women. And it's just learning how we operate, how we think, and how we feel personally. Because I think all of us want to be competitive, but my experience has been it's helpful to be self-competitive or self-comparative. How am I doing today versus who I am a week ago or a year ago? Versus allowing ourselves to take the blinders off and look side to side and say, well, how do I stack up compared to, person A, person B, or person Z? Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to kind of hear, from the book more what your perspective is on that. Any quick thought on that and how we as couples or families can kind of avoid the comparison snare?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think being able to paint a picture for your own family and say, hey, these are the things that we value as a family. This is where we want to put our time. This is where we want to put our money. And we have to forget what everyone else is doing. And it's hard because of a world that we live in, of reality TV or social media, whatever it is. It seems like we have a window into everyone's life. And so just, again, I think you said it perfectly, put the blinders on. That's what I tell people is be excited for those around you. You can be encouraging and whatnot, but don't put your life's detriment up against someone's highlight reel that you're seeing on social media. And it's amazing the money we'll spend that we may or may not have to keep up this lifestyle that we think everyone else is living, but we're the ones missing out on, or that's not true. And so being able to say, you know what, we're not going to worry about everyone else's lifestyle. We're going to do what's best for our family, and sticking to that day in and day out is very hard and it is difficult. But the longevity of that and where that's going to take you is so, so key, because it's going to let your family win in a scenario of things that you value, not what everyone else around you does.
Beautifully said. And I think it relies on us to actually define what our values are and what our identity is. What do we want our family, our personal identity to be? And then to let that be magnified through our actions and how we manage our money in our lives. So I'm excited to read that section especially. 2 last quick points. I won't spend a ton of time, but just number 2 is not owing anyone anything. I think you talked about in the SMART conference about how this doesn't apply just to our money, but applies to our time and our energies. Not being in bondage, right? A slave to anything. Being able to be clear about what we're going to commit our time to and our money to. So again, for those who are listening, when you get this book, these are some of the chapters or sections to dive into wholeheartedly. And then I love that last one, right? Give a little until you can give a lot. I remember reading the story of a billionaire that I'd had a chance to meet a little bit later on in his life, after he'd become a billionaire. And he said that he and his wife had been committed to giving and to sacrificing and trying to being able to offer up something even when they were struggling undergrads. And they said he actually made a commitment to give $50, which in his budget back then was a tremendous amount of money. He said, you give till it hurts, no matter what that level is as you grow and ascend. And so it's interesting to hear how, even in just a struggling point, they had committed to give to a point where they could feel it. And that was for them, $50 or something in that category. And that legacy of giving at that level, proportionate to what he'd been able to achieve and what he'd been given, continued on. It became part of the framework of his life. Even as he became a billionaire, he became a great philanthropist. So I just love how you're kind of talking about that any one of us can give no matter where we are.
Yeah, maybe any kind of thoughts on that, Rachel, is how you teach that to your kids or ways that you've found to give?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this idea that more is caught than taught is so key. So if you're a giver as a parent, your kids are going to pick up on that. They're going to see that as your life and something that you value. And so I think that's so important. And I think also making your kids give money, which sounds kind of harsh, but I'm like, we make our kids brush their teeth. We make our kids do their homework. We make our kids do these things. And so if that's what you're trying to do, then make your kids give. Let them experience giving. And again, some parents are like, well, I don't want to force it. But you really do need to teach them. And for them to experience it is so huge, experience it on their own. And so, yes, I think those 2 things as parents is something that you can really implement in your kid's life that will make a lasting impact.
You know what? Rachel, you're amazing.
You're awesome. Amazing.
We love you.
Oh, thank you. Guys, I love you guys here. Thanks for having me on. This was so great. You guys are so awesome in everything you're doing. Really excited for you guys.
Thank you so much for being with us today at Learn, Do, Become Radio. I can't tell you what a difference Rachel made in my life. We actually recorded this a few weeks ago, and I wanted to give you a quick update. Since recording, I have become so much better at budgeting. For some reason, I was so afraid of it, but I actually discovered a few little tricks that made it so much more helpful. And I've included screenshots and descriptions on the show notes page. So if you go to learndobecome.com/episode 16, you can actually see what I've done with my budget. Because I think what overwhelmed me in the past was having so many different categories and not really feeling like I had control. I felt like I needed to be a fortune teller to know what I was going to spend. And I felt like there were so many different categories I really couldn't affect because we'd already made the decision, to buy life insurance, for example. So what I did is I reorganized my budget, not according to category necessarily, but according to how much control I have over the spending. So I have one section that includes things that I have a lot of control over, like groceries and clothing. And then I have a whole section of things that I've already decided, things I don't even need to look at on my budget because it was a decision we made one time. And I'm thrilled to be able to show you how that worked for me. So if that helps you, great. Or if you already have a budgeting technique that works really well and you want to share it, come put it in the comments because I'm always learning and always looking for new ways to do things and to improve. So come visit us at learndobecome.com/episode 16. We can't wait to see you there. So grateful to have you with us in our community and have an amazing day.